Are you retired or within 10 years of retirement and are still wondering how to set goals for retirement? Well, if you want to learn about why it's so important to do so and how to do it, stay tuned to this week's episode of the Retirement Income Source, where it's all about the income. And welcome to this week's episode of the Retirement Income Source, where it's all about the income. I'm David Scranton, here with Sarah Samuels. And today we've got a great show planned as we're talking about goal setting. Not just how to goal set for retirement, but more importantly, why it's so important to goal set in retirement. And then how to align your portfolio, as well as maybe your other financial choices to those goals. So Sarah, I know we've done a show like this a while ago, but it's been a long time, and you know, it's very possible that some of the people are already retired who listen to that show, and now we're talking to a new audience, so it's all pretty exciting.
Oh, yeah, Dave. Well, I am so excited to be here with you and, of course, with all of our listeners out there. Talking about goals is extremely important, I think, really in all facets of life, right? Like a lot of us, we set those New Year's resolutions. Speaking of which, Dave, I think we're about halfway into the year almost.
I know. Yeah,
how's your
really,
resolution going? Have you met that goal yet?
Yeah, I have to start thinking about what next year's resolution is. Maybe,
Right.
it'll be the same one because I actually didn't do it this year, right?
Exactly. I procrastinated.
But yeah, think about it. I mean, like, so you and Justin have goals.
Yes.
Okay. And most people have goals. Okay. It's like, I want to buy a house, get married, buy a house.
Maybe get that fancy sports car you always dreamed about.
Yeah. Maybe have children, maybe a sports car, maybe a vacation home. And then the last goal is retirement. As if the word retirement in and of itself were actually a goal, right? But it's not. It's not, because retirement is a whole stage of life. Just like you have all your goals now for this growth stage of life, well, with people living longer and longer, the number of years you spend in retirement could be almost as great in number as those that you spend preparing for retirement. So retirement alone isn't the goal. You have to think about what it means to you.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the problems when it comes to goal setting is that, first of all, it can be a bit abstract unless you've really done the research on what you're interested in, what you want to do in retirement.
That's right.
And a lot of people, too, struggle with this idea, Dave, of, moving towards something in your goal versus moving away from something,
Right.
Specifically in retirement. So people that are moving towards excitement about retirement. They're ready to spend time with the kids, maybe spend more time at home, around the house, versus people that are excited to retire because they're getting away from something. Maybe it's a dead-end job. Maybe it's a boss they don't like. But who do you think is going to be more fulfilled out of these two people, Dave?
Well, that's an easy answer. The more fulfilled group are the ones that have a clear vision of what they're moving toward. Obviously, being in this business for 36 years, you pick up a thing or two. And I can tell you, there are some people that just worked their whole life to retire, and they wanted to retire because they just wanted to not have to work anymore. But they didn't have a vision of what it was going to be like. And as a result, they retired. There was this huge void in their lives. And then within 2-3 years, they're back doing full-time consulting projects and other things, not because they need the money, but because they didn't have a vision as to what they're moving toward. Alternatively, Sarah, I remember some other folks, I think of one couple in particular, who were workaholics, and they loved their work, but they had a clear vision of what else they wanted their life to look like, after the work years. And they went from workaholic to calling me up saying, we're retiring in 2 weeks, that's it, and they're out. And they led and are still leading a very, very happy and fulfilled retirement. So definitely better to move towards something, those goals, rather than moving away.
Yeah. Well, our next Ask Dave question comes from a listener who might be in that same boat of unsure how to set the goals and when to set them. So we have Carol from New Jersey. She says, I'm retiring with my husband about 5 to maybe 10 years from now, but we just don't know where to start when it comes to setting goals.
Well, Carol, it is Carol, correct?
Carol, yes.
I'm so good with numbers, so bad with names, so I always have to ask you that. Yeah. Carol, well, first of all, this is what this whole show's about. So hopefully you're listening. Hopefully you could stay here for the rest of the show. But, the reason it's important, so I want to give you the why first, because I think the why is as important as the how. The show is going to be about the how. But, think about it. Right now, you might spend 8 hours a day working with commuting time or thinking about work or taking work home. It could be a full 10 hours a day, right? That's a big void that's going to be left in your schedule when you retire. And, I'm sure you're not going to retire to, sit on a sofa and watch soap operas and eat bonbons, right? So you have to figure out what's going to fill that void. And so you have to remember several things. Number one, there's a big void. Number two, a lot of people get a real sense of fulfillment, a sense of their own self-worth from their work. Okay? Like Sarah sitting right next to me. Sarah gets a lot of sense of fulfillment from being the marketing guru, right? She's like the big cheese. Everybody asks her questions. They respect her. And there's a certain sense of self-worth that comes from that. I get a certain sense of self-worth for people looking up to me as a financial advisor, right? And I'm sure you do and your husband does in your roles also. And that goes away. So you have to think about how are you going to get your sense of self-worth in retirement? What's going to replace that? And the last thing, maybe not even the last thing, but the other major thing is social, right? For many of us, that becomes a big social ground, right? We meet and make friends at work. Maybe there's a happy hour here or there. And as a result, despite your best efforts, when you retire and you're not going to work anymore, those relationships do tend to die a little bit. And so that big social aspect of work disappears also, and you have to find other social aspects with which you're replacing that. So Carol, stay with us on today's show. Again, we're going to hit this topic for the entire 1 hour.
Well, Carol, thank you so much for sending in your Ask Dave question. And if any of our listeners or our YouTube viewers out there have a question that you want Dave to answer on a future show, or if you even just want to send us a comment or a question about something else, all you have to do is email us at askdave@retirementincomesource. That's SOURCE.com. And thank you for spending your weekend here listening to us right here on the Retirement Income Source, where it's all about the income. I'm Sarah Samuels, and I'm here with David Scranton. And today we're talking about goal setting, all aspects of goal setting when it comes to your retirement. So I think one of the biggest questions here, Dave, is, okay, we know when you should start, but how do you start? Are there some questions you should ask yourself to get started planning your goals?
There are, but I think if you don't know where to start, one of the great things that you can do is just interview people, right? I mean, you know a lot of people, Carol knows a lot of people that are retired, and some that are retired and seem to be very happy, and some that are retired maybe aren't so happy. And you can ask each one, what is good about retirement? What did you do well? If you had to do it all over again, what would you have done differently in preparing for retirement from a planning standpoint? And of course, we're not talking at this point about planning your finances in retirement. We're just talking about planning what your retirement looks like, right? What your day looks like when you get out of bed and you're not driving to work, right?
Right.
So, or today, just opening up that laptop on the kitchen table if you're working from home. So that's really the goal. That's really what it comes down to. So I think you start by making a list of people whom you know, family members, friends, and interviewing them. What do you like about your retirement daily routine now? What didn't you like? What happened the first year in retirement that you didn't think of? Don't talk about the money. Just talk about, what caught them off guard and maybe what would they have prepared differently, what they might have done differently had they known this. So I think by interviewing people who've been there before you, who've done it, you can learn about a lot of the do's, and you can learn about a lot of the don'ts also. And that's a big part of it.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think talking to people, like you said, Dave, that's going to give you a really great idea. And especially if you're close with these people, they're going to tell you the real story. And hopefully they're going to want to give you some tips to avoid that. But
that's right.
What are some of the other ways that you can just get started, Dave? If you're really lost, if you're like Carol and you said, okay, I talked to some people, I interviewed some people, what should you do next?
Well, Sarah, we have a whole 1 hour show. I can't give away all my secrets.
I'm trying to get everything in, Dave.
Right here in the first block of the show. I mean, come on now. But I do want to promise you that we are, coming up, going to be talking about specific steps that you could take to start your goal-setting process. And you might be surprised to find that your goals in retirement could fall really into 3 separate categories. We're going to cover all 3. I'm David Scranton, here with Sarah Samuels, and this is the Retirement Income Source, where, yes, it's all about the income.
Welcome back to the Retirement Income Source, where it's all about the income. I'm Sarah Samuels, and I'm here with Dave Scranton, and today's show is all about goal setting, when to set goals, how to set goals, and how setting goals might actually affect your financial strategy down the road. So just a few moments ago, Dave said that most of our goals are going to fall into 3 different categories: the have, the do, and the become goal. So Dave, can you explain a little bit what you mean by that?
Sure. And although we're talking about goal setting for retirement right now, the 3 categories really apply to everyone, right? There's things that you want to have, okay? So you want a house, you want a nice car, anything that you want to have is a have goal. And those are the easiest to set because you look at how much something costs. If you want to motivate yourself, you put a picture of that thing. Any sales supervisor in a sales organization will tell you, oh, you want a Corvette? Well, get a picture of that Corvette and and tack it right onto your cubicle so you're looking at it every day, right? So those are easier because they're tangible. But then there's things about do goals, experiences that you might want to have, whether it's going on a mission trip once a year when you're retired, whether it's paying for the whole family to go somewhere together and you're footing the bill. Those are do goals, experiences. And then you have the become goals. The things that you want to become, the things you want to be known as, right? So that's, okay, when I'm well up there in age, what are people going to say about me and what I did in my career? What are people going to say about me as a parent, as a grandparent, maybe even a great-grandparent, as a mentor, right? Those types of things. So, and Sarah, it's interesting because, so let's take your age, right? At your age, right now you're in your 30s, right? So what's more important, money or time right now at your stage of life?
Probably money, I would say, because you feel like you have all the time in the world at my age, right?
Probably money. You have all the time in the world. That's right. And so your goals right now are probably have and do goals, right? A lot of have things as you try to, build your family and everything, you and Justin together. But then there's also a lot of do goals, right? Like, for example, you're probably renting a place down in Marathon, Florida for the mini season this year, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Just a month away.
That's right. I know you do it all the time. So big thing down here in the Florida Keys, mini lobster season, so I know that's one of your passions every year. That's a do goal. But if I were to ask your dad, what's more important, money or time, what do you think he would say?
I think he'd say time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you think his goals would be like yours, or they'd be more have and do? Or do you think maybe his goals at this stage of life are more do and become goals?
Definitely more do and become goals. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Those things are more important. And so those are harder because they're harder to visualize. It gets harder as you go up. So the easiest thing is to have goal. It's easy to visualize and quantify. The do goals are a little harder to visualize and quantify, so you need to be a little more creative there. And then the become goals are the most difficult. So you almost have to sit back on your deathbed and write your own eulogy. I know it's morbid.
It's very depressing.
Yeah,
Dave.
you almost have to write your eulogy and say, what do I want people to be saying about me as a parent, as a grandparent, as a mentor, as a, whatever it is that's important to you. So again, those are the three basic categories, and we're going to be diving deeper into those throughout the show.
Yeah. Well, a lot of our listeners out there are, they're probably struggling with this idea. It can be abstract, like Dave mentioned. And I think that includes Aaron from North Dakota. Aaron sent us an email. He says, I've tried to set goals before with me and my wife. We sit down, we open a bottle of wine, but we just can't get through it. We're not creative at all, and we don't know how to do this. Dave, can you help us out?
Well, first of all, you may want to try it without the wine.
Do it. Sober goal planning.
and I love a good wine myself, but still, yeah, that may not be helping you. You think that you get a little more creative with a little bit of vino, but the thing is, you've really got to block out time. So if you're sitting there at night after dinner with a bottle of wine, you probably have an hour and you're trying to get it done. So what I tell people, Aaron, is, take out a day or two. Take a day or two and really just get away. Go to some place that you love, that motivates both you and your wife, a place that you really enjoy. Shut the phones off. I know it's hard. And just set your goals. So the first thing is you've got to have more time than that, and it's got to be a way to clear your mind. If you're sitting at home after a work day and then there's more stuff going on at night after that, returning calls, whatever, it's not going to work. And in terms of getting creative, it builds on itself. I always tell people to take a blank sheet of paper, several blank sheets of paper, and just write stream of consciousness, everything that you want to have, do, or become, those three areas, Aaron. And what's going to happen is it's going to start slowly. You're going to start writing some things down, and it might be slow. But as you get into it, you get more excited. It's going to get greater and greater and greater, and it's going to go faster and faster and faster. And I think as, one of you can be the scribe, if you will, is to this thing, or you could do it separately and then match some notes. Either way works. I've seen it work both ways with spouses. But again, you have to start somewhere. And the first step, I read a book years ago, Sarah, you're a marketing person, and the book said, if you think you're not creative, you're not good at marketing, The first step is to stop telling yourself that you're not creative, right? So I would say the same thing to you, Erin. The first thing is to say, you're not creative. You have a right and left hemisphere of your brain just like I do, just like Sarah does, right? Now I exercise the left hemisphere more. She exercises the right hemisphere more of marketing, but you have both. And just by giving yourself some quiet time and exercising that creativity, you'll be surprised what you can come up with.
Yeah. Well, Erin, thank you so much for sending in your question. Dave, I thought the first step of goal setting was crack open the bottle of wine. That's how I would start it, but maybe not. All right. But Erin, thank you so much for sending in your email. And if anyone out there wants to send Dave a question or has a topic you want Dave to cover on a show, all you have to do is shoot us an email just like Erin did at askdave@retirementincomesource. That's SOURCE.com. And thank you. We appreciate you spending your time here with us, of course, on the Retirement Income Source, where it's all about the income. And we were talking about goal setting and how it can be a little difficult if you don't think you're a creative person, even though you shouldn't. You should stop saying you're not a creative person.
Yeah.
That's the first step.
It's like people who say they're bad in math. Well, of course you're going to be bad in math if you keep telling yourself that.
Dave, I'm really bad at math.
Now, see, look at that.
Even if I will myself to be good, I still can't.
That's it. Is Rich back there? Rich is in the control room. Hey, Rich, can you bring out that bottle of wine for us, please? I think Sarah needs to.
Maybe I'll get better at math.
That's right. Let's get the course through. Maybe get better at math. Exactly. According to your philosophy, at least.
Right, of course. But when it's abstract, like when it seems like it's an abstract way to when you're trying to set goals and it feels like it's abstract, do you think it helps to try to get as specific as possible, or is it better just to kind of throw some generic goals out there?
It's really good to get specific, and that's a great question, because you have to be creative. And when everyone's a young child, right? Every boy wants to be a fireman, but wants to be a billionaire. He used to be a millionaire, now it's a billionaire, right? Well, we know that being a fireman, being a billionaire don't really go hand in hand, but yet children are willing to dream. The problem is you get older, and this might even already be happening to you, and you're only in your 30s, right? You're a whippersnapper. But as you get older and you go through life, what happens is you end up being, all of a sudden it's like, well, okay, I got to go to work, and I got to pay the rent, and then we got to save for a house, and oops, now I got to pay this mortgage payment. All right. And then, maybe we're thinking about having a family. All right, maybe we'll live off one income for a while. Well, that's going to be tight. And then all of a sudden, now we got two incomes. Oh my goodness, we got 10 years to go to college for kids. Now we got to really save money for college, right? So what happens is you go from dreaming to just barely getting by, which is why it amazes me, Sarah, how many people I come across in retirement that have done well. They've saved millions of dollars, but they think they're going to retire on $50,000 a year, and that's okay. And maybe they're making $200,000 a year right now, and they want to live off 50. Why? Because they've gotten conditioned to think about just getting by, what they need, not what they want. So the first thing is to be able to dream big, like a kid, right? Take off the constraints of adulthood. And when you dream, you need to dream in sensory specific fashion, right? Think about those days when you remember your dreams, right? Some mornings you wake up, you do, some you don't. And those when you remember your dreams, they're pretty vivid, aren't they?
Oh yeah, yep. A lot of imagery and all sorts of things, absolutely.
And those that are most successful, Sarah, at setting and achieving goals are those that have the ability to live their dreams in sensory specific fashion in their mind before they've ever happened. Let me say that again for everybody, because this is important. If you want to be successful in setting and achieving goals, the single most important thing that you can do is learn how to visualize those goals. Learn how to dream those goals in sensory specific fashion way before they ever happen. So what does it look like? If you're going to Italy, what does it look like? What does it sound like? What does it smell like? What does it feel like? What does the food taste like? Invoke all those senses, and if you can do that, you can have a much better chance. And I know it sounds a little hocus pocus, but we're going to tell you later on in the show how to do it. But you have a much better chance of setting goals that'll motivate you.
Yep. And we all know, of course, that practice makes perfect. So coming up, how to practice retirement when you're still in the workforce. And Dave, I'm not talking about quiet quitting here. So we're going to talk about that. I'm Sarah Samuels, and I'm here with Dave Scrit, and you're listening to the Retirement Income Source, where it's all about the income. You're listening to the Retirement Income Source, where it's all about the income. I'm Sarah Samuels here with David Scranton, and today we're talking all about goal setting, how to set your goals, when you should set your goals, the have, the do, and the become category of goal setting, and really getting sensory specific, right? Thinking about that trip to Italy and the sights you might see, the smells you might smell, the sounds you might hear. This is going to really help you when it comes to goal setting. But there's also another way to help you get prepared for retirement, and that's practicing retirement without actually leaving the workforce. And Dave, it's not quiet quitting, but there are some ways that you can kind of practice this retirement without leaving a job.
Well, you mentioned when you begin, and to me, beginning 10 or 15 years before retirement is great. Any more than that, you may not know what you really want, but 10 to 15 years before is close enough, but yet far enough away. So you want to live these goals vicariously, right? So what do? So the first thing is you interview people, right? So you interview people, like I said, that have been retired, and that gives you a little bit of a vision through their eyes, right? Then you do some goal setting yourself and write about it in sensory specific fashion, and that helps you internalize the vision. But then you got to check it. You got to check it, and that's what you're referring to is practicing retirement before you're actually retired. So what do we mean? Well, if you're that close to retirement, with any luck, you're at a point where maybe you get 4 weeks off a year or something like that. So, take 3, start taking them in clumps. And I know you don't always want to do that. You want to take them 1 week at a time, and I get that. But you can't really practice retirement 1 week at a time. 1 week feels like a vacation. But if you take 4 weeks off, that starts to be more than that. Sarah, think about it, right? When you're on a vacation, like what's the right amount of time before you feel like getting back to work?
Well, I feel like it takes me and probably most of our listeners out there a couple days, right, to ease into the vacation if you're working full time, and then maybe a couple days of vacation, and I don't know, maybe 7 days, and you're kind of maybe getting tired of vacation at that point.
Yeah, my number's usually 10.
Yeah, 10.
Roughly less than 10, you waste 3 days warming up and then you got 7 days of vacation. More than 10, it's like, okay, I'm ready to get back. So that's why if you're doing it for a week or two, you're really not practicing vacation. You're not practicing retirement. You're actually just going on vacation. But if you could string together 3 or 4 weeks and do that every year for a few years, you could do staycations. You stay at home and you see what life looks like. What do you enjoy doing together? What do you want to do? What do you not want to do? Now, what if you want to move somewhere, right? You say, okay, we live in a warm climate. I'd like something in a cooler climate to get away in the summer. Great. Or we live in a cold climate. We want to go to Florida in the winter or Scottsdale. Great. Well, then what can you do there? Well, again, take 3 or 4 weeks and go there at that time of year. Rent a place and experience it. Meet the people, experience the area, the city, and what it's like. Next year, rent a place in a slightly different area. Maybe a different area in Arizona or a different area in Florida. And again, experience that. And that it will tell you not just, gee, is that really something you want to do? But more specifically, what area you want to be in because of the people, because of the culture, because of the activities, because of the cost of living, right? But again, 10 days doesn't cut it. You really got to do this for 3 or 4 weeks. So it's unfortunately means clumping all your vacation together, but it could lead to much more happiness and sense of fulfillment throughout retirement.
And I actually think that's a really good tip, Dave, especially for those folks out there that are having a hard time visualizing what retirement looks like. If you follow this method and you go somewhere for 3 to 4 weeks, it really helps you visualize what it's like and you can experience it. And you might find, hey, maybe you thought you wanted to live on a beach in retirement, but it's too hot, sun's too bright, you don't like it. Or maybe you thought you'd love living in the mountains and it's too cold.
How many days can you lie on the beach, right?
Right, exactly. Maybe your goals will change if you're able to do this. So the next step, though, once you have your goals, once you figure out what do you do, and that's really our question that we have from Tracy, our next Ask Dave question. Tracy is from Georgia. She sent us an email. She says, my husband and I have retirement goals and we feel pretty good about our plans, but how do we apply them to our investment strategies? Okay.
Well, Tracy, I think the first thing then is to look at your goals and separate the have and the do and the become, okay? Because the become oftentimes is leaving a legacy. Now, become is more than that, right? Become is, again, what kind of parent, grandparent, what kind of spouse, and all that. Maybe mentor. That's part of it. But part of the become goals could be leaving a legacy. It could be, do I want to set up a family foundation to do charitable things and maybe teach my kids and grandchildren how to participate in that? Do I want to leave a certain amount of legacy, right? What's the right amount? versus what's too much or not enough. So that could be part of your legacy goal, and that might affect how you invest your money in one way, right? The have goals are lump sum purchases, right? Now they may not be, right? You have to think about, okay, if all my money's IRA and 401k money, and I want to buy a beachfront property, clearly I can't cash out $500,000 or $1 million because I'll end up giving half it to the IRS. So in that case, your lump sum goal might have to be financed. You might have to put a small down payment, get a mortgage, take withdrawals periodically from the IRA or 401k to make that payment. But assuming all your money's not IRA and 401k, then it's probably going to be a lump sum purchase. Okay, so you're looking at that different from an investment strategy. So you've got the become goals, the legacy, that's looked at one way. And then the have goals is being looked at another way because that's a lump sum purchase. And then how about the do goals? Well, the do goals are income based. They're all income based, right? And that's looked at from an income standpoint. Okay, so by separating the three, the first step, Tracy, is by separating the three, now you can go back and you can quantify how much money you need in each category and what strategy works the best for each of those three categories. And you may find that you can accomplish all three, or you might find there's not enough money to go around. Maybe you need to short arm one of those goals a little bit, or eliminate one category and focus on others. And that's ultimately going to be your and your husband's decision.
Yeah. Well, Tracy, we appreciate you sending in your Ask Dave question. And if any of our listeners or even our YouTube viewers out there have a question that you want Dave to answer, all you have to do is send us a message at askdave@retirementincomesource, source.com. Thank you for listening to us right here on the Retirement Income Source, where it's all about the income. I'm Sarah Samuels here with Dave Scranton. And our show today is all about goal setting and how to really make goal setting work for you, how you can get started, when to get started, and ways that you can practice retirement almost and make sure that the goals that you're setting are actually going to work for you in retirement. But this is really the biggest piece of the puzzle here, Dave, is applying these goals. You figured it out, you did the hard work, applying them to your investment strategies to make sure that you get the most out of retirement.
Yeah. No, it's not even just investment strategies, it's financial strategies in general. I want to say one quick thing though that you mentioned right before this question, and I thought it was a really good point, is that sometimes by doing the practice retirement, you get better at creating your goals in sensory specific fashion. So it's a loop. It's creating your goals isn't a one and done thing. It's a loop. It's something where you interview the people close to you and you see what they like and don't like and what they've done, what they would do differently. Then you try to put down everything you want to have, do, and become in sensory specific fashion. Then you practice retirement, and then you might go back and write down more. And it might change what you put down initially, because now, as you said, Sarah, you've got more intelligence, if you will, because you've experienced it firsthand.
Yep. And it might send you back to the drawing board almost to kind of rework the way that you were thinking you would retire.
Which is why you have to start 10 to 15 years before retirement, right?
Right, yeah.
So money management. Well, it's not just how you manage money, but think about your options too, okay? Think about pension. If you have a pension that has a lump sum option, what are you going to take? Well, if you have mostly do goals, right, that are, hey, I want the income, you might just take the monthly pension. But if your goals are have goals, or if they're legacy goals, right, become goals, you might say, you know what, I don't want to take the pension because that pension income ends when I die, right? So that might affect how you make that financial decision also. Okay, so it's not just investments; you're really making all financial decisions, But how about the investment side, right?
Yeah. How does it work when it comes to investments?
What is the world's most famous equation, Sarah, in the investment world that we talk about all the time on this show?
Are you talking about the how to make your millions last formula, Dave?
I'm talking about how to make your millions last
formula. Also known as
right.
TR equals I plus G.
TR equals I plus G. Total return equals income plus growth. One more time. Total return equals income plus growth. TR equals I plus G. So think about a piece of real estate, right? Let's say you have rental property where you can make money in two ways. One is you get rental income, and that's money that you can spend for the do goals, right? And then the other one is that property might appreciate in value. That's something that you could sell down the road to have a have goal, to make a purchase, right? Every investment has potentially an income component and a growth component, an I and a G component. And that is perhaps the most important determinant, if I may tease that for you there, Sarah, the most important determinant of what to focus on based upon each of those three categories.
Yep. And we're gonna talk about that, plus other ways that you can apply your have, your do, and your become goals to your overall financial strategy. I'm Sarah Samuels here with Dave Scranton, and you're listening to the Retirement Income Source, where it's all about the income.
And welcome back to the Retirement Income Source, where it's all about the income. I'm David Scranton here with Sarah Samuels, and today we're talking about retirement goal setting. We've covered a lot of ground, but we have a lot more to cover. Why is it important to set goals for retirement? Because those who are moving towards something in retirement are much happier and much more fulfilled in retirement than those who are just retiring because they just hate their boss, or they hate their job, or they've always thought they want to retire but don't know what it means. We talked about the importance of goal setting in a sensory specific fashion, right? Invoking all your senses, just like when you wake up and you remember a really vivid dream, right? And we also talked about the three categories, that goals fall into things that you want to have, do, and become. And lastly, we're starting to talk a little bit now about how those have, do, and become goals apply to that very famous equation. Again, what's that equation called, Sarah?
The Make Your Millions Last formula, also known as a total return equation. Total return equals income plus growth.
TR equals I plus G. That's right. And it's kind of like I said rental property, right?
Yep.
You could make money in two ways. You could make money through rental income, and that can satisfy your do goals, right? Yep. Or you can sell the property at a gain, make money on the G, the growth, and that might satisfy your have goals or even your become goals for a legacy, things like that.
And Dave, we talked about this on a recent show, but I thought it was a great point that you mentioned about how pretty much every investment vehicle out there has income options and it has growth options. And I think it's a good point to keep in mind when you're looking at your have, do, and become goals and what you should be focusing on. Yeah. For example, if you have or a do goal, right? Maybe you're thinking about a lump sum. Mm-hmm. So you're really thinking about total return. You're maybe not as concerned about where that money's coming from, if it's income or growth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and not all things have income. Some have literally a zero income stream. But in that class, you could buy similar things that have income, right? Just like real estate. You could buy real estate for speculation. You could buy it for rental, right? So every investment has that option. But the key is, how much money do you need for each category of goal? So you're right, Sarah. If you have a lump sum goal, then you want to look at total return. You don't want to ignore the balance between the I and the G, because that goes to volatility and risk, right? So if that lump sum goal is far out, maybe you can go mostly G and take more volatility because the goal is far away.
Yep. You have more time.
That's right. And if the lump sum goal is coming up in a few years, then maybe you still want to go with more of an I component, because generally speaking, things with more I are less volatile. They fluctuate in value to a lesser degree. Legacy.
Yeah. What about a legacy? Does that mostly total return focus or income focus?
Legacy's total return focus. However, what a lot of people do who are really legacy focused is, and this may seem counterintuitive to a lot of our listeners, Sarah, that feel like they're my age or older, and they're like, well, wait, I had life insurance when my kids were young. I'm not going to buy life insurance now. A lot of people, if they're still healthy at even an advanced age, they set up an irrevocable life insurance trust. They buy a life insurance policy, and then they use income from their investments to pay for the life insurance. So now they don't have to take a big lump sum of their assets and put it off in a corner of their balance sheet and not touch it just to leave a legacy. They literally can have all the money working for them, but use the leverage of life insurance to provide a huge tax-free benefit to heirs, use that to establish a big legacy. So if people have a lot of become goals, they focus either total return or they use, that leverage of life insurance. But, for many people, they're income focused, right? For most people, they say, hey, I've been making a lot of money my entire life. I want to replace that paycheck. And we find that to be the most common, in which case you're focusing on the I and not so much the total return.
They have a lot of those do goals, right, where they're looking for income, that I. Yep. But let's get into our question right here. We have our Ask Dave question. This is William from Ohio. William says, most of my goals in retirement are do goals, so I'm going to need income. How do I invest keeping that in mind? Great question.
Okay. Well, William, I love you if you're a loyal listener, but I have to tell you, you're one selfish son of a gun, because you don't care about your legacy. How dare you? Can you believe William doesn't care about his legacy?
William wants to just
He probably has all kinds
retirement.
of kids and grandchildren. I'm just teasing you, William. That's fine. Hey, you know what? A lot of people tell me that. They say, I want to spend my last dime on my last day. and that's it. I don't care about anybody else. We worked hard for it. We put our kids through college and maybe paid for a wedding or two, and now it's our turn. So in all seriousness, I think that's great. So, for you, obviously, you're focusing on income. And as Sarah said, the things that are in the income world are really no different from the tools that you're used to. Real estate investments, be it real estate on your own or be it like a real estate investment trust, can be done in a G way, a growth way, or in an I way where it sends off more income. Bonds could be in a G way where you don't get a lot of income. It's like a savings bond, if you will, or in an I way where they pay a significant amount of interest. Stocks, William, same thing. Stocks do that. They have growth stocks that pay almost no dividend, in some cases absolutely no dividend. And then there's other stocks that pay a high dividend. They still have growth potential, but they pay a high dividend, right? So you have to focus for those do goals on those things that pay more income. So there's many cases where, I would say that, if, and I don't know your level of investment sophistication, William, but, even if you were trading commodities, which typically don't have any income, you can write covered calls against those commodities and you could turn a non-income asset into an income asset. Heck, even if you own Bitcoin, you could stake your Bitcoin, right? And you can get income from your Bitcoin. So by, lending it out to the miners. So the whole point is that most things that you're familiar with, we're not talking about newfangled investments or anything strange. We're just talking about changing your mindset, William, from a growth mindset that served you well during those accumulation years to an income mindset that's going to serve you well in retirement.
Well, William, thank you so much for sending in your Ask Dave retirement question. And if any of our listeners out there have a question that you want Dave to answer, or maybe even a topic for a show that you're interested in, all you have to do is send us a message via email at askdave@retirementincomesource. That's SOURCE.com. Thank you for spending your weekend here with us on the Retirement Income Source, where it's all about the income. I'm Sarah Samuels here with Dave Scranton, and today's exciting show has been all about goal setting and really giving you some concrete tips and ways to go about goal setting, particularly if you're a person that struggles with visualizing your dreams or if you think you're not a creative type. So Dave's broken down these goals really into the have goals, the do goals, and the become goals. So Dave, I think a lot of people, a lot of our listeners out there are probably thinking, well, Dave, when I first retire, almost all of my goals, they're going to be do goals, right? I want to travel. I want to go see the grandkids or see my kids. I think people are going to be looking at that. And then maybe as life goes on in retirement, as you get older, like you say, Dave, the go-go years and then the slow-go years, right? Maybe your goals will change in retirement.
Yeah, and that's what makes it so tough, because that means investors with all those do goals need to focus on the I instead of total return, which means they need to change their investment mindset. Now think about it. You fast forward, right? You've done well with your own investments, just for 10 years of working experience, 10, 12 years. But now, imagine 30 more years go by and you do well, you accumulate a few $1 million. And all of a sudden you've got this paradigm in your mind that, hey, more risk means more return. I don't worry about the I focus on growth, and over the long run, I'm going to do better. Heck, that's how I built my money, right? And now you've got to totally shift your entire brain around to be thinking about, well, it's not about total return anymore. It's about income. And like most things in life, when they're that deeply embedded, it's hard to make that paradigm shift.
Yep. Well, that's why we talk about pretty much every show that retirement is a big transition. It's not just about transitioning your money. It's not just about working with the right income specialist for you. It's about making that transition in your mind. And I think that setting these goals, even if they're going to change down the road, I think setting these goals helps you figure out what you're looking for, which kind of helps set your retirement off on the right track.
It absolutely does. And but what I was talking about, though, Sarah, isn't exclusive to our listeners. Yeah. It's exclusive. It also includes the financial advisors of our listeners, right? If you think about it, a lot of financial advisors, same thing. They start, when you get in this business, if you start young, you start with clients that are about your own age, and you grow with your client base. As they get older, you get older, right? So now that advisor's been in a total return mindset his entire career, her entire career, and now they have a tough time making that shift. I mean, to the point where even, Sarah, we clear through the big three, right? So for us, somebody becomes a client, we don't hold their money, right? That's how people got in trouble with Bernie Madoff. He actually held the money. All of our clients' money's at Fidelity or Schwab or TD Ameritrade, the big three. But, what a lot of people don't know is all those big clearinghouses, they have on their statements an option, whether you have a column that even identifies how much income is being generated from the investments, or you have a column, or you don't have that column. And most advisors, Sarah, purposely take that column off. They ask that third-party custodian to not have the income column because it doesn't look good, because it's not what they focus on. They focus on the G. So you wonder why our listeners have such a tough time with that transition. Well, it's because the people that are coaching them in most cases have a tough time with it too.
Yep. And that's really why we do the show, of course, to talk about income, to get the income message out there. And hopefully, Dave, you're educating not just our listeners and viewers, but some of those financial advisors out there that need a transition in the way that they're helping people plan for retirement. So if you enjoyed this show, if you want to share the show with some friends, maybe listen to it again, you can. All you have to do is go to our radio website. It's retirementincomesourceradioshow.com. All of our past episodes are there.
And you know what? Even if you didn't like the show, share it with your friends anyway. But most importantly, please be here. Please join us next week. Same time, same station. I'm David Scranton here with Sarah Samuels, and this is the Retirement Income Source, where it is always about the income.